Can you see the moon? Yeah. Mama Moon. Probably won't speak too loudly because sleeping baby. Baby at rest on daddy's chest. Aligning our heartbeats as our luminaries are aligned. I do like to offer the opportunity for her to hear me talk astrology every now and then, though. And this morning, when it was still dark, so I guess at the end of the night, we went outside while Mama caught up on a little bit of rest, and we laid back and gazed at Mama Moon in the sky. Mama Moon, baby. And I noticed that the moon was very close to the position that hosted the travel of the moon when I was born. And so this was an image of a lunar return for me. Now, importantly, there's many types of lunar returns. Usually in astrology, when we use that term, we are speaking about the moon returning to the same zodiac degree. And I didn't cast a chart in the moment, but I can see, just based upon where the moon is against the backdrop of the fixed stars, that the moon was at 25 tropical Gemini, and that's where moon was when I was born. And that's where the sun was when baby Mai was born. So we share a luminary synastry. Daddy's moon conjunct baby's Gemini sun, right? And so now lunar returns for me kind of become a different thing where, and I mean lunar returns by degree, because I also certainly celebrate lunar returns by phase and by latitude and other wonderful things. So lunar returns by degree have become very different for me now, because I will never have the moon visit my natal moon degree without that moon also visiting Maya's natal sun degree. And so I get to feel our connection when the moon comes around. I've been, due to the recent and coming occultations, meaning moon blocking planet, star, or sun from our view, really been considering parallax lately. Parallax being, well, astronomically, most expressed through moon appearing to be in a slightly different place against the backdrop of the stars and constellations when gazed upon from one location on Earth versus another, right? So when at night folks in New York gaze at the moon, and I'm gazing at the moon at the same time, and here in California, the moon will actually be seen in a slightly different position against the backdrop of the stars. That's called parallax. You see the science, the sacred science of astrology. In our craft, we typically are measuring geocentrically, meaning from the center of Earth. And that's very important. You see, astrology tells us that we are measuring our experience, our individual experience of Earth's experience of the heavenly happenings. Now, the moon is the only one of the celestial cast who is close enough to us for there to be a measurable and noticeable difference between the geocentric distance, so the distance of moon center from Earth center, versus the topocentric distance, so the distance of moon center from Earth's surface. And the surface of Earth called New York, and the surface of Earth called Richmond, California, we have a different view. We're actually a different distance from the moon in any given moment of time. So that's called topocentric surface measurement. And the distance, the difference kind of between the surface and the center measurements, that's parallax. That creates this parallax thing, right? And so I'm intrigued, like my NI, my moon degree is her sun degree, and it's not like exact to the arc minute, but it is what we call partile, which means same degree. But if I utilize the parallax calculation in Boston when I was born, that brings my moon even closer to the position of my daughter's sun. And so I'm not going to use that single interesting data point to validate the power of the parallax moon, but I do find it intriguing. Come here, Izzy. I'm also very fascinated by and work regularly in the realms of relocational astrology. So I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, with the moon in the first. And what happens is when the moon is on the eastern side of the chart, and that means houses 3, 2, 1, 12, 11, and 10, then the parallax position of the moon will be greater than the geocentric position of the moon. Okay, so the example would be, I was born with the moon at 2501 Gemini, tropical Gemini, when measured from the center of the Earth. Right, that's what Earth was experiencing when I was born. And the geocentric chart, which we almost exclusively use in astrology, is measuring my unique experience of Earth's experience of that moment, right? But when I consider the surface location, my moon is a little bit further along in that degree. It's 25, 30 something. And so that's intriguing. Well, here in California, where it was a few hours earlier on the clock, and as far as the Earth spins, in the moment of my birth, Gemini was not rising as it was in Boston. Pisces was rising, and the moon was down at the IC. So I have a moon IC line, if you're familiar with astrocartography, running north and south on the west coast of the United States, where I've spent most of my life. And it's kind of like I can't escape this moon, the IC line, because it just feels like home. But interestingly, when the moon is at the top or the bottom of the chart, then there's very little difference between the geocentric and the parallax positions. And how do I say this? When the moon is most powerfully pulling the waters of the Earth towards you. So when the moon in the 2 moments each day is most contributing to high tide in your particular location, that's the time also when the moon's geocentric and topocentric positions are the same. In other words, there's like no parallax. I don't have the language for this yet. I imagine it's something that modern day astronomers would, or especially folks who are studying tides, which I become more and more interested in. And yeah, I guess that'll let me finish where I began here. Because that moon, just as we're getting home, and the moon's, we'll move into Cancer today, reminds me, and especially this morning, and once every tropical month, when moon gets to 25 Gemini, that Maya was born with her Gemini sun position aligned to the same degree that hosted the travel at the moon, of the moon at the time of my becoming. And of course, the tidal forces are about the sun and the moon, right? Sun, moon, and earth, the 3 parts of the philosophy of the whole world: spirit, soul, and matter. And one thing I love about tidal forces, and this actually kind of gets to another expansion of parallax, is that, well, certainly the sun has much more gravitational pull, if you prefer Newtonian physics, or maybe electrical pull, if you prefer other models. The sun has much more gravity than the moon. But the moon, because she's so much closer to the earth than sun is, has about twice the tidal force. And so gravity and the tides. Speaking of gravity, I don't know, little Hono, you want to wake up? Because Daddy's back. Could probably use a rest. No, we stay committed until the baby wakes. And I love that she can sleep through little astro chats like this. And I appreciate you for joining us in this explorations of the ever inquisitive mind called Gemini. See you in space, friends.